Hello, and welcome to Steve and Dave's new series, Song Stories. The motor at the heart of the music industry is its legions of songwriters who churn out a never-ending stream of product to feed the machine. This is not to say that songwriters don't pour a lot of energy and effort into the process, but there often isn't much time or room for tapping the heart blood of private emotions. Nevertheless, many of the hits that we love the best offer highly personal glimpses into their writers' emotional lives or unusual circumstances. Sometimes the song arises out of quirky but fascinating situations. The latter is true for this episode's song, Take Me Home, Country Roads. It's such a straightforward declaration of love to the state of West Virginia that it's more than surprising to learn that neither John Denver nor his co-writers had ever actually lived there. Steve and I discussed this in our August 1971 episode of 50 years ago this month. What follows is the relevant excerpt from that show.
And then we have at number 3, we have John Denver with Take Me Home, Country Roads. So what do we need to know about this song, Dave?
Well, this is a song that really has a fascinating background. I had no idea. But Denver did not write this song by himself. In fact, he came into the process fairly late. The song was written by a folk duo known as Fat City, made up of Bill Danoff and his girlfriend at the time. They would marry later, Taffy Nibbert. Started off, they were just driving along through Maryland to a family reunion of hers in Maryland, and just driving along a very scenic route, Clopper Road. And he just started, he was strumming the guitar, she was driving, and just started jamming a little bit and coming up with some lyrics about driving along a country road, right? He would go back to their apartment in Georgetown and work on this a little bit. And then the two of them, Fat City, opened for John Denver while he was playing at a little club in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., called the Cellar Door. This was December 1970, during the holiday season. And between Christmas and New Year's, after their last set, they just said, why don't you come over and we'll play some music and just hang out. So he agreed to do that. On the way there, he got in a car accident and broke his thumb.
Wow.
But still, after going to the ER and getting his thumb splint, he went over to their place, and they had already written a song for him called, I guess he'd rather be in Colorado or something like that. I'm not familiar with the song.
Yes, yeah, I do know that one. Yeah, okay.
All right, but it was another song that was going to appear on the album that this appeared on, Poems, Prayers, and Promises. I guess he'd rather be in Colorado. So
yes, that's it. Yeah.
Do you guys have any new material? And I said, well, yeah, we've got something. We're actually writing it, hoping to sell it to Johnny Cash. And I think you'd agree with me. This would be an excellent song for Johnny Cash.
Oh, absolutely. This has Cash written all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. But he said, well, let's hear what you have. So they played it. It was essentially the first verse and the chorus. And he said, that's a hit record.
Oh, yeah.
Aren't you going to record it yourself? They said, well, at the moment, we don't have a recording contract. Although that duo actually ended up making 4 records of their own.
Okay.
But at the time, they had no recording contract. And he said, "Well, would you give it to me? I'd love to put it on the album that I'm working on." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, let's work it. Let's get it out. You know, let's finish it." And Bill Danoff said he had just this manic energy, and he was buzzing on painkillers, but he wanted to sit down and just bang it out that night. So that's what they
Right.
did. Got out an encyclopedia. Oh, by the way, none of them had ever been to West Virginia, right?
That's
Starting off, the song was "Almost Heaven, Massachusetts." That's where Bill Danoff had come from.
yeah, place he knew.
But the Bee Gees had already had a hit with
Yes, they had.
Massachusetts a few years earlier. So they decided they couldn't go that way. Almost Heaven, Maryland didn't work. So they ended up with Almost Heaven, West Virginia.
Huh. That's
And
interesting.
And Danoff had actually had some West Virginia associations. He was befriended with Chris Sarandon, the actor.
Oh, right.
As well as a group of hippies from a West Virginia commune who used to come and watch them play in some of the little clubs that he used to play at. And that actually comes later in a verse that was deleted in the recording, but I'll get back to that in just a bit. Anyway, so they're looking through the encyclopedia. What do we have on West Virginia? What can we use? Oh, well, there's the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Shenandoah River. They're predominantly in Virginia instead of West Virginia, but
that's right.
They're still there. So he found that very, very poetic. It flowed well.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Taffy was trying to come up with a way to get rhododendron into the song, because that's the state flower, which she found out in the encyclopedia. So
Yeah.
rhododendron. And that was actually the working title of the song.
What was the working title?
Rhododendron.
Of course it was.
Yeah. So it was actually written on their lyric sheet that they sent to the ASCAP.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, they work on this. They're getting all these things down and changing words, moving lines around, getting the bridge.
Mhm.
And Danoff said the bridge was actually something that came from his childhood, because laying in bed at night in Springfield, Massachusetts, he would listen to the Saturday Night Jamboree, which was a broadcast from Wheeling, West Virginia.
Yeah.
WWBA. And so the radio reminds me of my home far away was a reference to that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Anyway, 6 a.m., they're finished with the song. That night, Denver finishes his set, doesn't have anything for an encore. And he says, well, Fat City and I just completed the song last night. I haven't even learned the lyrics yet, but we can try it. So Taffy holds the sheet of paper with the lyrics on it, and they read from this while they're singing. Of course, he can't play guitar because his thumb is broke, but
right.
They get it done, right? And just 5 minutes, standing ovation, and they knew they had a hit.
Oh, for sure.
They recorded it in January, just a couple weeks later. I don't know where the Brill Building people actually did their recordings, what studios they used.
Yeah, I don't know.
This was definitely a Brill Building product. Take Me Home, Country Roads. It had Gary Chester on drums, which was essentially the East Coast equivalent of Hal Blaine, right?
Yeah.
You had Eric Weisberg, popular kind of a bluegrass session player.
And he played a lot with Denver down the road too. Yeah.
Best known for his solo on dueling banjos.
Dueling banjos, right?
Right. So it had all this talent, right?
Right.
Just coming together to make this, of course, Fat City, with Danoff and Nevert sang background. Danoff was playing guitar. It all worked out, and of course, the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a fantastic. Oh, interestingly enough, when they released it, it really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Denver had some limited success with Leaving on a Jet Plane, although
Yes.
that's actually more of a Peter, Paul and Mary tune. But
That's right.
He was with the Chad Mitchell trio and had a minor hit with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, RCA Records said, well, it's not going anywhere. We're going to stop promoting. They said, please don't. Please stick with it. And they did, and it ended up peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Top 100 chart.
Yeah.
And right after How Do You Mend a Broken Heart, the Bee Gees kind of blocked the top. But yeah, so it was his first huge hit, essentially launched his career.
That's right.
There's one other thing I would just like to talk about real quickly here. And that is the missing verse.
Yeah, this missing verse thing is, I'm intrigued by this. Well, so what happened?
It wasn't radio playable, right? Because
oh, well then
I'm gonna try to sing this. In the foothills, hiding from the clouds, pink and purple, West Virginia farmhouse, naked ladies, men who look like Christ, and a dog named Poncho nibbling on the rice, country roads, etc., etc.
No.
Absolutely true. And actually, this is actually a verse that they wrote that they chose not to include.
Well, where to begin? The a couple things. God, they made a wise choice excluding that. Although it really makes,
I think so. Yeah.
It really takes the song in a different direction.
It does. I kind of like it actually, but
I admit I kind of like it too. And then when you couple that with Denver's next big hit, Rocky Mountain High, Friends Around the Campfire, right?
Yes.
A couple things there. Take Me Home, Country Roads, obviously a big song for Denver. Poems, Prayers, and Promises, a pretty big album for him. Both were kind of eclipsed by his next album, Rocky Mountain High, which really just, was stratospheric for him. It seems to me that the Danoffs had a taste of success later on. I believe that they were a part of the Starland Vocal Band. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely right. With the song that he co-wrote, Afternoon Delight. Yes, thanks for reminding me about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And when that band broke up, so did their marriage. 1981.
Yeah.
The band broke up. Shortly later, they got divorced. But
but they had, they had their 15 minutes of fame as well.
Absolutely.
Not only was that a big song, but they actually had, I think, a variety show for a short time.
Yes, they did.
Network television.
Rhoda.
That's it. That's right.
Yeah, and of course, Country Roads made them fairly wealthy people.
I would think so. It continues. Well, for example, West Virginia has completely embraced the song. If it's not the anthem of West Virginia, it's kind of an unofficial anthem. I know
it's one of 4 official state songs.
There we go.
Yeah.
At the University of West Virginia, when at the end of a game when they're ahead, the student section will break into we'll break into song, we'll break into country roads. So it's, West Virginians have completely embraced this tune, which is so interesting considering that they had to sit down with the encyclopedia or whatever, look at the map, see, okay, this river's here.
Right.
But that's how these things work. And Denver, of course, then would enter. I mean, this is just right at the precipice of him becoming, he's a very, very powerful player culturally in the 1970s, beyond just music, right? He's big on television. He even has an acting career, right? He's an Oh God. And
Yes.
he's a very dynamic kind of presence in the 1970s. And this is just right at the kind of the beginning of his phase of career.
Yeah, absolutely. And a generous artist too. For instance, they had their contract with the Starlight Vocal Band with his record company.
Yeah,
So he remembered his friends, supported the artists around him. Just seems like an all-around sweet dude, right?
Yeah, I think that what you hear about Denver is that he was a pretty decent guy. I think that's sort of what floated around him. That he was
and absolutely revived
earnest.
the pastoral in pop music.
I think that's absolutely right. We'll talk more about Rocky Mountain High here soon, but I think it's absolutely right. I think he makes a career out of the pastoral in a way. It's fascinating stuff. Well, thanks for so we have a number 3. Yeah, Take Me Home Country Roads. It's a fascinating story.
Well, there you have it. Story behind Take Me Home Country Roads, the song that would launch John Denver's solo career, and still an anthem and a song that we all enjoy hearing again and again. If you enjoyed this episode of Song Stories, and we hope you did, you can subscribe for other Steve and Dave's material right here. Or you can watch another episode of Song Stories right up there. And as always, you want to check out our playlists for this month. Right there. Until next time, take care.